Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 9, Episode 110. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Dave, happy to be back with you along with Steelers Nation for this Monday. Yep, we're going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday for this week to recap the draft and everything that's going on. Then we're going to go back to our regular Tuesday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday. I'm getting my days and my days all screwed up over here.
Yeah, it's easy to do right now in this stretch that we're on, and it'll sort of ease up, I think, on us a little bit after today here. Have you been busy trying to work on your sideline to sideline and running through people the last couple of days? That's what I need to know.
I've been doing my best, but I think today we're the only two people in America that haven't watched Game of Thrones that can't give any spoilers and can't talk about it in a podcast.
Yeah,
we're the only non-Game of Thrones podcast today.
Yeah, I wonder who's winning. Do you know who's winning the Game of Thrones, and do you know what the line was?
I took the under.
Yeah, take the under. I have no idea, and believe it or not, my wife doesn't watch that either. I'm surprised she's kind of not into that. But we're probably the last two, I think.
Mm-hmm. All right. So for anyone else out there,
you know what I've been watching? I've been watching Game of Akron.
I saw that. Not as exciting. It doesn't sound like it's as exciting as Game of Thrones last night, which apparently was awesome. Which I might watch last night's episode just because, without any context, to watch a big battle episode. You know what? I might do it. I'm not going to watch the whole series. But anyway, let's transition to any fellow non-Game of Thrones watchers and any Steeler fans out there, which I'm sure you are, about the draft recap. And we went through all the prospects yesterday and recapped everything that happened on day 3 of the draft. Now we're going to kind of go through things again, maybe go with a deeper dive into some of these players. But today I want to start with something we didn't get to yesterday, was just Tomlin and Colbert's wrap-up presser. You know, they always give that after the draft, after the 7th round pick, just to kind of review the draft. And there wasn't a whole lot of information this year. I think it was kind of everybody wanted to get out and go home. So it was a relatively short presser. But I think one of the things that Tomlin highlighted was the versatility of this draft class. And when I think about the selections in general, especially on day 3, but also the day 2 picks and then Devin Bush at the top, I do think about versatility. Is that kind of the feeling that you get of a driving force behind these selections, guys that are athletic, guys that are versatile, and of course guys that can help you out on special teams?
Well, I think the first thing that kind of stuck out to me, especially heading into day 3, is, man, how many underclassmen did they take right in a row there to start a draft? That was, normally we talk about, okay, the first, maybe the first pick or the second pick will be an underclassman, but usually they unless it's a skill position, I think we kind of highlighted that too, or you and I did at one point off the air talking about, well, what kind of underclassmen do they normally go after the second round? And I think we kind of identified that it's either like a skill position or an offensive lineman along those lines there. And I was pretty floored that what was it? The first four picks were underclassmen? 5?
Well, Bush, Johnson, Snell, those were underclassmen. Was Lane an underclassman?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 4.
I'm pretty sure he was, wasn't he? Yeah.
Okay, I'm asking. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But yeah, I mean, we've seen that before, though. I know we had this conversation, but I mean, we've seen guys like Jesse James and Jonathan Dwyer and Sammy Coates. Those guys were all, non-top two picks that have been underclassmen. And as more underclassmen come out, I think 144, 149 underclassmen declared this year, you're just going to naturally have a bigger pool to choose from.
Right, and they did. I mean, that's what I'm saying is, look, I'm not surprised that they picked an underclassman after the second round, but just when you look at the overall list, there's a lot of underclassmen in it.
Yeah, and Gentry too. Gentry too was an early declare.
Right.
So yeah, I think that was all of them. I think the rest were seniors. So that's 5. right?
Right. Well, Gray was a senior, right? And
Yeah, Gray's old. He's 24. He's an old guy.
And Bugs was he only played 2 at Alabama, but he had
All right,
played a couple JUCO before that, and also I know he was older there. But I that's the thing that stuck out to me first and foremost. Now, as far as the versatility goes, the more we're getting into Deontay Johnson, and the good thing is that Alex and I have uncovered a little bit more tape on him that we can start breaking down. Is yes, he played inside and outside. You go back and you look at some of the stats, I think, from last year with him. Only about 25% of the time did he line up in the slot. Now, he's got a good get off and all, but to me, generally, he's still. I still view him more as a potential X player. So, I don't know. I mean, obviously you get some versatility in him in kick returner and maybe a punt returner on top of that. You get into the I hope I didn't call him a second rounder. I meant to call him a third rounder. I keep forgetting that they traded away that second rounder. Their other third rounder in Justin Lane there. He's not as versatile. He's going to probably be an outside guy only, at least to start with. And I don't know how much of. I mean, obviously he's going to have to probably play some on special teams, but I don't know how much there is in his history there at Michigan State of him being a special teams ace, if you will. You move forward on into some of the guys we know, or we think, or at least they hope that Gray might have some versatility with him. All I've really seen him as is a tackle there at Maryland. Let's see, Gilbert, you know what? Gilbert, the more you watch him, he's kind of a poor man's, who was the kid I liked last year? Jannard Avery out of Memphis. And it was fun to hear Kevin Colbert mention, he didn't call him by name, but he called him the kid that plays for Cleveland out of Memphis. It
was Butler, right? Not Colbert.
Was it Butler that said that?
Yeah, it was Butler, yeah, because Butler couldn't remember the name.
Okay, all right. Well, it was Butler then that said that. He couldn't remember the name. Anyway, Jannard Avery was a guy that I know I liked. I think you liked him as well, too. And they ended up drafting Marcus Allen I think, wasn't that the pick where Marcus Allen went a few picks ahead of Avery?
It was 5th round, so was Avery taken in the 5th round? I don't remember.
It sure seems like I remember that being the case going back. I'll have to double check here, but
I'll look it up for you while you talk.
Avery's got a little bit of versatility in just that they flexed him out quite a bit. I didn't realize they flexed him out as much. I mean, he really did a lot of lining up on like slot. Whoever the opposition would line up in the slot, they certainly did have no fear in putting them out there on that. And Sutton Smith, I wouldn't call it so much versatility with him, but boy, he sure did make a lot of plays last few years at Northern Illinois.
Marcus Allen went 148th, and Jannard Avery went 150th, so 150. So yeah, basically back to back with those two guys. Yeah. I thought that
was the case there.
Yeah, so that was the calling card. Athleticism, versatility, just the way that the league is evolving. And yes, there are concerns about the size of Gilbert III and Sutton Smith, but, most of these linebackers are small. I mean, Sutton Smith is, 6 foot 233, and Devin Bush is 5'11", 234. So on profile, they're pretty similar. Now, I think their body types are different. I mean, Smith just seems like a more lanky, less bulky kind of dude than Devin Bush. But, that's the way that the league is going. And so I think, when you have versatility, you have guys that wear lots of hats, that's going to help them make an impact and certainly help them make the team.
Absolutely. And where were we going with this from here on this? More talk about Colbert and Tomlin talking about these kids, or no?
Yeah, just anything that stuck out to you in their wrap-up press conference, anything that they said.
When Colbert went through them, he, of course, said, here verbatim, he says, I guess we'll just start at the top. He says he had the opportunity to interview Deontay Johnson. We know the assistants and coordinators have spoken to you about each of them, but Deontay Johnson is a nice inside-outside capable receiver that does both punt and kick returns. Let's see. He goes on to talk about Kreider talking. Benny Snell. I thought that was he had the interesting things to say about Benny Snell. He says he was a dominant SEC runner, a little natural run skill to his game where he sees things. He's really good on the second level and finding and creating space. And then he goes on to talk about the one thing that attracted him to him. That's a choice that they make. But when a player like talking about not playing in bowl games, when a player like Benny Snell ends up playing for his team in his bowl game, we really like to acknowledge that and give him credit for putting this team or his team and that win over his own priorities. And when he talks about Zach Gentry, he goes, he's probably a lot like Justin Lane. You know, he went to Michigan, was recruited as a quarterback, flipped over to a wide receiver, and then quickly went to tight end. He's learning how to play that position. Gentry is 6'8". He's learning how to become an NFL tight end, playing in an NFL scheme coming out of Michigan. He's got a good start on it, and he'll continue to improve and get better.
Yeah, interesting backgrounds for a lot of these guys. They went with some big schools, and we know the history of, Colbert and Tomlin being at these pro days mattering for not only the first round picks. It matters a ton for the first round pick. The history super strong there, but also for all the draft picks. And for the 9 had Colbert or Tomlin at their pro day. And so I think history again kind of shows when they get eyes on these guys, they want to bring these players. And it also mattered for several of their undrafted free agents. You had undrafted free agents from Texas and Houston come in, and guys that I'm sure Colbert saw at pro days that they wanted to make a special note of. Yeah,
absolutely. And even as far down as obviously a lot of MAC kids in this class as well too, and I thought that was quite interesting in regard to that. So I haven't had a chance to really dive much into the undrafted free agents yet, but I mean we're diving almost by the hour more into these players that were drafted. I know we jumped around them on quite a few. Anything else to add on what Colbert and Tomlin had to say? I guess we can talk a little bit now about what they had to say about Marcus Allen, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're talking about a winner of this draft. I was really surprised that this team didn't bring in a potential dime candidate. I know I've gotten questions about, can Sutton Smith be a dime candidate? Can Gilbert III? Not really. Usually with that dime backer, it's literally a 6 defensive back, someone with really high coverage skills. And I know Gilbert can cover and move around, and that's an asset. But in terms of being that dime guy, that's not really the person that you're going to want, not the position that you want. So Marcus Allen really seems like the front runner right now to be that dime player. And maybe they saw something during the season that gave him a lot of trust in that. Obviously, we didn't get to see him too much, but talking about one of the biggest winners of this draft, it's Marcus Allen.
Yeah, it might be, and had they drafted a guy like Darnell Savage or really Udo or Ugo or Armani in the middle rounds or whatnot, been a little bit different story. I don't know. I mean, I got my questions here, but I mean, they did talk about Marcus Allen during this press conference because I think didn't Tomlin bring it up at one point? I know the question line was something along the lines of, since you brought up Marcus Allen there, safety was not drafted. How do you feel about your numbers there? Could Allen go over there? Sean Davis is coming in last year, just wondering about those numbers at safety. And Mike Tomlin said, well, we'll allow those guys to sort themselves out. We're comfortable with the numbers of people that we have working. We're also comfortable with the versatility of some of the corners. You've seen Cam Sutton play some safety. You've seen Mike Hilton play safety in our football team in the past. I'm sure that there are others who are capable as well. So we're comfortable not only with our team numbers at the position, but with the flexibility of others that it may not be quote unquote safeties there. And then when it comes to Marcus Allen, he was asked again. Marcus Allen will probably be more of a linebacker then, I guess, meaning more of a dime backer. And Mike Tomlin says again, I'm not going to paint with a broad brush at this juncture. We're going to provide opportunities for those guys and show their position flexibility and increase their chances of impacting us. I don't know if he really gave us a question there. I mean, a good solid answer there. He didn't say yes or no to either. So I mean, I guess we could see Marcus Allen get some time in a dime. But I mean, coming out of Penn State, did you kind of potentially see him being that player?
That's how I profiled him, was being certainly a potential dime guy, a box player, certainly a strong safety, no one that you really wanted playing in space. He thrives closer to the line of scrimmage. So in terms of that role, it makes sense. But just to be basically, it feels like they're all in on him. Maybe they're not. I know Tomlin talked about other options, about guys moving. Maybe Brian Allen. We've discussed the potential of a Brian Allen switch for a while now. It hasn't happened, but maybe that's going to be on the table too, with that cornerback room with Justin Lane being added, getting really, really heavy. But there was another comment that I think that Tomlin was asked about, that he brought up Marcus Allen unprompted, that really kind of was more notable to me than even the follow-up about Marcus Allen. I think he was asked, Tomlin was, about you did a nice job addressing some package football. Were you able to do it the way that maybe you hoped for? And Tomlin says, quote, I feel really good about the men that we have selected. I'm still not opposed to exploring guys that are currently on our roster and the expansion of roles and the development of people in that area. I know that we have spent a lot of time grooming and talking about the development of Marcus Allen as a guy that's going into his second year that should be able to compete for a linebacker position. Did you read that quote? Or did you read the next part?
How late was it in the process?
Yeah, it was the question before the two that you just mentioned. This is in the Tomlin Colbert press conference. So that's him bringing up Marcus Allen unprompted, that kind of led in the discussion about playing Marcus Allen. And so, yeah, Tomlin is confirming that he's going to compete for that linebacker spot. So sound like they're really high on Marcus Allen. This is a guy we only saw in one game last year, defensively, the Chargers game, the famous ran out of smoke game, and we didn't see a whole lot on special teams. But Hilton and Sutton playing, safety, that's possible, but that's really more of a free safety thing. Talk about that actual dime spot. That's not where really Hilton and Sutton are going to play. At least they better not. Really, it comes down to Marcus Allen, and who else is going to compete for that dime spot?
I don't know. Could Barron? At all. If you're able to say get Bush on the field or whatnot, and how is Barron going to fit in all this? Obviously. Well, I don't want to say obviously, and I don't want to talk in absolutes here, because we saw T.J. Watt come in his rookie season, pick things up uber quick, and then hit the field right away. Could we? You would kind of doubt it a little bit more with such a quarterback in position such as, but if Vince Williams is making the calls to start with there, is there a possibility that we see Bush get some sort of playing time early in the season in the defense, and then work to get a few more snaps from there?
Absolutely. That's totally possible. It's going to be kind of a play by ear, see how he acclimates himself, and sometimes it's out of necessity. Terrell Edmonds was playing out of necessity, and that's, they kept him in there even whenever Burnett finally got healthy. So, yeah, anything's on the table right now. But for Barron playing that dime role, it's just something he hasn't done. I know that was kind of the thought that I had and many had, when Barron was first signed. But you go back through that tape, he doesn't cover the slot. He's rarely outside the box, a little bit, but he struggled matching tight ends vertical. This is a guy I don't want to be my dime player. He's a linebacker. And again, when you talk about that dime role, you really want a more athletic guy that's comfortable in coverage. And that's not Mark Barron, and it's not going to be Gilbert III, and it's going to have to be a defensive back.
All right. Well, how does a guy like Marcus Allen compare to Mark Barron? Obviously, one's younger than the other, but how did you view Marcus Allen coming out of college as being able to function in coverage and potential a dime role?
Well, he's not. That's not where he's going to work the best, but you just talk about the comfort of a safety and coverage and knowing the route tree and playing in space. Marcus Allen has done that before. He's played the deep half in coverage too. He's probably played a little bit of single high before. It's certainly not foreign to him. So to me, it's just about a comfort level. Maybe that Allen is not the most spectacular cover guy, but if it comes down to Mark Barron versus Marcus Allen taking an extra slot receiver or carrying someone vertical, give me Marcus Allen all day.
I don't know if I want either of those two covering.
Well, I wasn't super comfortable with Marcus Allen being the guy, but that's kind of the hand the Steelers are dealing us right now. And again, if it's not Marcus Allen, who else is it going to be? Unless they make an acquisition or they want to have Dangerfield compete in that role, which makes sense, but hasn't played that role before. And again, it's the guy that isn't even guaranteed a roster spot right now.
Right, and it's going to be I guess what we're trying to say is we don't know who's going to be the guy.
Yeah, and that's the concern because they've gone through so many dime players for the last since 2015. They've had Robert Gold, and they've had William Gay, they had Nat Burhay, Sean Davis has done a little bit of it with maybe some decent success. Obviously, Morgan Burnett disaster last year. I mean, it's such an important role. This team plays more dime, that 2-3-6 dime than any other personnel package last year. So that sixth defender is almost a starter in a lot of sense, and they've expanded that role to not just third down, but to play it on early downs too. And if you don't have that sixth defensive back that's really competent and really should be starter caliber, you're going to be in trouble the way this team's been in trouble in the past.
Do you think there's any chance whatsoever that they get to a well, we'll save it for a later date, but I mean, it is going to be how is Bush going to eventually fit into this once he's on the field, as from a coverage aspect, and maybe even from a dime aspect?
That's a good question. If you're going to be the dime aspect and you're going to have one linebacker out there, again, that linebacker's got to make the call. So you got to have comfort and trust in Devin Bush being the quarterback of that defense. Now, he called the plays in Michigan. I think he's a smart, football IQ guy, but you're going to have to show that you're better than Vince Williams, or as good as Vince Williams, a veteran who this coaching staff has a lot of trust in. So there's a lot of options right now. I don't know which way it's going to go, but in a lot of ways that's a good thing, because last year you didn't have enough options. This year you might have too many. And give me too many good players than not enough, and I'll take that all day.
How much time did they play last year?
I can get you the number in my charting that I do. It was the majority package, though. They played that more than anything else. It's such a big part of sub-package football. You look at the playoff game, the Chargers versus the Ravens, where the Chargers beat Baltimore, who's a run-heavy team, with that 6 defensive back package. So that's your ticket.
All right.
Let me get the number.
And what kind of role in that situation do you think Edmonds can become? Do you think Edmonds can become a guy that you trot down?
I mean, it's possible, but I think they really want to keep him in a strong safety spot and let him play there. They really didn't want to move him last year. Now going into year 2, I think you create a little more flexibility with him and present some different options. But, I think you prefer to keep him in that strong safety spot. And even if you move Edmonds down, then you got to figure out a guy to replace him. And it's going to be Marcus Allen probably anyway.
Right. True.
They played dime. The Steelers did 37.2% of the time last year. That was up from 24% in 2017. That was the most of any personnel grouping. They played their 3-4 defense 30%, the nickel defense 29.4%, and again dime 37.2%. So it was the majority package of all of them.
And we expect the trend of more man to continue, right?
Yeah, that's the way the team's transitioned to as well. So you got to find guys that are athletic, can play man coverage, comfortable being kind of out there on an island. So again, that's something that worries me. Putting all your eggs in the Marcus Allen basket. What if Marcus Allen gets hurt? I mean, that's a possibility. The way Burnett did, and just who knows what could happen, and what's your backup plan after that. So that is one thing that surprises me and has me a little worried.
Well, it's a matchup league, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and you gotta have those pieces, and that's why this team drafted flexible guys and versatile guys, because you gotta have answers for everything. I get that, but I feel like they might be running out of smoke again, a dime, and I don't want to have that conversation again.
Yeah, the old running out of smoke.
Yeah, not the best place to be. Anything else from Tomlin, Colbert? That was really it for me, besides the Mac conversation.
Yeah, I mean, they believe it or not, that might have been one of the shorter post-draft press conferences Colbert and Tomlin have had in 6 years or something like that. And I think Mike Tomlin had to run out and do some national interviews on NFL Network and ESPN and stuff like that. And I guess it's worth mentioning that the comment that he made about what was the exact comment he made about there's been a cleansing when asked about not having Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh anymore. I think that was a quote that he or something that he told Trey Wingo not long after they drafted into there. So I thought I got a chuckle out of that there. Yes, it has been one heck of a cleansing. There obviously looks to be less drama in that locker room right now, which is a good thing going into, which, by the way, phase 2 of the Steelers offseason gets underway today. So chugging right along here. Alex, we're going to be talking training camp before you know it.
Hey, I can't wait. Best time of year. And also rookie minicamp. I know the date hasn't been announced, but based on some of the articles we read about tryout guys that are coming in, believe the rookie minicamp is going to be May 11th through the 13th. So not this upcoming weekend, but the weekend after. So put the date to that.
And we should have, based on these obviously 6 picks from the third round on, all those kids should sign uber quick. I mean, they're they're non-guaranteed contracts outside of the signing bonuses with each are pretty cut and dry. So it shouldn't take long to have the bulk of the class done. And heck, even last year, the number 10 overall pick, there's not going to be much. Last year, who was it? Edmonds. He was in that kind of gray area as to how much he could potentially negotiate. Maybe the fourth year of his contract be guaranteed and all like that. Well, where Devin Bush is this year, 10th overall pick, that whole contract's going to be guaranteed. So in essence, even though Bush it was picked much higher than Edmonds was last year, it shouldn't take as long as it did last year to get Bush done as it did Edmonds. I mean, because of the fact that there really is no negotiation there. Obviously, because of the slotting system. We already have a good idea of what the numbers are going to be on that, so that's not going to be a point of negotiation here. The fact that it's the entire contract is going to be fully guaranteed, that's not going to be an sticking point here. So that should get done quickly on top of it. So I wouldn't be surprised by the time the rookie mini camp's over, Alex, that the Steelers have all 9 of their draft picks under contract.
Hey, that'd be fantastic. That'd be awesome to get that done out of the way. Tell us, Dave, bring it up. I know you have the article on it. You wrote the contract projections for all these teams. But what is Devin Bush's contract going to look like? Because I know it's not. It's going to be a decent number. It's not the way the CBA has controlled these contracts. It's not going to be the way that it was. But I haven't even been able to frame it of exactly how much that contract's going to be worth. Because we're not used to the Steelers picking the 10. They haven't picked the 10 since Plexico Burris in 2000, I think. So what's his contract going to look like?
Well, the entire thing should total out at almost $19 million. 18.871266 is the latest projection by Over the Cap with this. A lot of times these things aren't exact on the number, but they're pretty damn close. He's going to get a signing bonus of almost $11.8 million with that on top of it. Now, his base salary in his rookie year should be the minimum for $495,000 or close to it. His first year cap charge should come in a little under $3.5 million. Now, he's obviously going to be the most expensive one in this draft class there, and then of course his cap numbers increase going out. 2020, $4.289 million, 5.146 in 2021 will be his cap charge, and then a little over $6 million in 2022. Now, obviously, with Bush being a first-round draft pick this year, the Steelers at the end of the third year, end of 2021, they'll have the option to pick up the fifth-year option on Devin Bush's contract, and boy, you don't want to miss on this one, do you? Hopefully he's the player you thought that he would be 3 years from now, and you're picking up that fifth-year option. And the difference with him being a top 10 pick, though, as opposed to him being picked outside the top 10, is with Bush being the Steelers' first-round draft pick this year's contract, obviously will include the fifth-year option. In the current CBA, however, the fifth-year option salary for a top 10 pick is a transition tender. The average of the top 10 salaries at a player's position, so that should be expected. Now, obviously, we'll have the who knows what's going to happen after the, when does the CBA run out? 2020, 11. Yeah, I think it's after the 2020 season. So who knows what we're going to be in for as far as negotiation goes, and maybe how those fifth-year options go. But that's at least the way it's written now in the CBA.
So if new terms are negotiated for 2020, this contract language wouldn't be grandfathered in. It could be something totally new.
I would think it would be grandfathered in, but I don't want to speak out of class without knowing. Yeah. I always loved speaking out of class, and always did as a kid. But on this, I would think that it would be, but don't hold my hand to the fire on that.
Well, I think our listenership is down to one law student if we're talking CBA language and projection. So let's move on now. But good information on the contract because I hadn't got a chance to look at your post and I was curious about it. Dave, you want to talk about some prospects today, go a little deeper dive into them. Let's start with Zach Gentry, the tight end from Michigan, the 5th-round pick, one of those several underclassmen that the Steelers did select in this draft. And you broke down and did your favorite contextualization of kind of himself as a receiver. I'll let you take it away here with your opening thoughts on kind of what the Steelers are getting with Zach Gentry as a receiver.
Yeah, I went through and I found all 45 of his targets from last season, and watched a lot. I spent a lot of yesterday afternoon watching a lot of his tape, especially him as a pass receiver. 45 targets. He, of course, caught 32 of them for 514 yards and 2 touchdowns. The thing I think that stuck out with him was his average target depth was just under 10 yards at 9.96. So that's the average distance the football flew in the air past the line of scrimmage on all 45 of his targets. The average depth of his 32 receptions was 11.09 yards. So he was down the field a little bit, Mm-hmm. Overall, when on the passes that he caught, I'd have to go back and do we have the average? Go to. Do you have anything you can pull up with the average depth of target on the NFL guys last year? Maybe at Next Gen Stats. I forgot to.
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, well, it'd be interesting to see what some of the better tight ends, what their average reception yards per depth was last season. But I found that 11.09 number a little bit impressive there. He's not. As with most tight ends, probably not going to be a big yak guy. He can run some after the football, though, but he averaged 3.53 yards after the catch in 2018. 10 of his 32 receptions, we talked about him being able to get down the field a little bit and catch the football that way. Really, almost a third of his receptions last season resulted in gains of at least 20 yards. He did have 6 drops last season. 3 of those, I don't know how much of the Ohio State game that you watched, but that was by far his worst game last season. And I think not only that, I think on his 3rd and final drop in that game, I think he suffered a concussion in that game as well, too. So you want to talk about a game that wasn't his best. It was the game later in the season last year against Ohio State. 3 of his 6 drops during the season came in that game. 2 of those even came on 3rd down, which were crucial. And his drop early in the season in the first game against Notre Dame came in the end zone and thus negated a possible touchdown. And I believe either 2 or 3 of his drops were lower to the ground ones. In other words, kind of not ideal throws. Another one against Notre Dame in the end zone was a bit of a lower throw that you'd kind of expect him to come up with. And then I think the one maybe the first one against Ohio State was a low throw on to him in that aspect as well too. He has a nice catch radius, which he should. With being a 6'7", 6'8" player, so that's a plus there. A route runner. He's got a lot of work, I think, to do on that aspect of it. You don't see a lot of them having to work of against press or anything like that. Obviously, working as a down tight end, he's getting releases off the line and such. Now they did occasionally split him out there, but I didn't concentrate too much in on his hands catching versus his body catching and whether or not he double caught. So I'll have to take another run through the tape on that. But overall, as a receiver, you can tell where he's made some progress there. And once again, I think we talked on the show the other day, this should be at least a good big red zone target for Ben Roethlisberger, even though Gentry, I think, what did he have in total? 4 touchdowns during his career at Michigan and only 2 last year. He should be a nice, decent red zone target with that size and catch radius over of his. But overall, I guess it was about what I expected when reviewing him as a pass catcher. And he's done. Look, I mean, he's put up some things that a few of these other tight ends in this class didn't do, as far as probably depth of reception, target, and those kind of things. So he's making progress, but it's important to remember that he's still early in the process of converting from quarterback to tight end.
I guess the concern is, and I agree, he could be an attractive red zone target when you're 6'8". Certainly anyone at that height is going to be an interesting guy down near the end zone. But how are you going to get him on the field? Like, who are you taking off to get Zach Gentry on the field? And that's going to be the issue there. And while he did win vertical, I think I saw him beat a lot of cover 3 soft zones that he ran down the seam and got pretty free. And I made some contested plays, but some of them were just being open. I think that's why some of the depth of target is as high as it is.
Right, and make no mistake about it, you're not going to find a lot. I'm trying to even think of, I think maybe 1 or 2 contested catches where it was actually contested.
Yeah, I can think of 1 right now. But, I mean, just to break a tackle, like, this guy hasn't broken a tackle that I've seen in the tapes that I've watched.
No, and some of these bigger gains of his, I think a couple of the 40-yard ones against, who was it later in the season? Indiana, I think he was kind of running free on both those, wasn't he? Anyway, so yeah, not going to be a big gap. I mean, okay, this is not Gronk. Let's get this out. Yeah. Get this out of the way here. I still, and I don't know how much, did you go back and I didn't focus any on his blocking yesterday. That's going to be part of a future run through of his tape here. Did you go back and look at his blocking anymore?
I did. I don't think it was as terrible as advertised. I don't want to say he's not a blocker at all. Certainly a lot of experience as an inline tight end in a 3-point stance. So that's good that have that comfort there as the guy making the transition. If this was a quarterback going to tight end who had to put his hand in the dirt, and that'd be even more to work on. He's going to work on his punch. When you're 6'8", you will pop up and you will miss too high with your punch. But just using that size in general is a good shield. He can create some movement on his down blocks. And I think he's got moments where he positions his hands right and plays with good leverage. He's able to really take control of the block. So certainly some work in progress. He will have some ugly plays where, again, he punches wrong, he gets thrown to the ground, and it's all about the timing and his hand use. But I didn't think it was as terrible of a blocker as kind of people were making it out to be.
All right, I'll make sure to focus a little bit more on that next time I run through on him. I still contend that his upside, his ceiling, is what Jesse James was as he exited Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but that's like his max ceiling, right? That's not what you necessarily expect.
No, that's his max ceiling.
Right, and that's the concern. What if you don't get his max ceiling? What if you get 75% of his max ceiling?
Right.
So, I mean, his floor, what's his floor out of the league in 2 years? Kind of like what his floor is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're talking worst case scenario. I'm not saying it's what it's going to be, but if we want to talk about ceilings and floors, a guy that just might not have the blocking ability and it's just average, and a receiving ability that doesn't give you a whole lot. Like, it's okay, but it's not. I kind of almost compared him to, like, maybe in a couple years of Sean McHugh, kind of a big guy that, just kind of there.
Yeah, I mean, look, he as a 5th rounder, you're not tied. You're definitely not married to him from a financial standpoint. So, he is going to. The thing with him is that transition from quarterback to tight end. He's got to get to a position with his body where he's comfortable and learn how to play with the frame and all like that. Now he has filled that frame out nice. I mean, is he going to be asked to fill it out a little bit more? Do you think, or no?
How old is he? I know he's got to be a younger guy being an underclassman, right?
Let me have his age. Let me look at his age here real quick.
Because he might add a little bit. Yeah, I mean, the frame is a little bit thinner. When you're 6'8", you're going to be a little bit.
He's 22 and a half already, believe it or not. 22.6. He will turn 24 in September. Or 23 in September.
Yeah, you probably add a little bit to him.
I mean, he's 265, right? I mean,
he's always going to have that appearance, just being 6'8". He's going to be a little, but he's not small. He's not thin. He's just a little, he's a little tall.
Do you know how much he gained, or if any, coming out of Michigan, between the Michigan and the Combine? Because he obviously showed up at the Combine at 265. I don't know if he played at that weight or not.
Well, I'll look at his bio. They're always notoriously maybe a little hard to know if that's accurate or not. His bio says 262. Let me look what he came out of high school. I'd be really interested to know what his high school weight was as a quarterback. I'm sure he wasn't 262. So that.
Right. I'm just wondering how much, if he indeed played at that 265
Yeah, I don't know.
weight, because I mean you can't see him. He's not going to get on up into 270 range, right?
Well, he's at 265 right now.
Right.
He can add a little bit. I mean, he's almost there. He's a hamburger away from that. I mean, yeah, you're not gonna make him 295 though. I mean, he's got to have some movement skill, especially if you look at him as a receiver. So maybe just adding some muscle, not just adding weight, just adding that muscle. 230 coming out of high school, so he added about 35 pounds.
What do his numbers compare to Jesse James, his combine numbers? Do you remember? Have you looked at that at all?
I haven't, but I can do it now with the power of the internet. I think Jesse tested better. Jesse didn't run 4.9. I'm pretty sure. Kind of close, 4.83. But his vert, Jesse had a 37.5-inch vert. Gentry was 29.5. The broad, 121 inches, whatever that converts to. I don't know off the top of my head. But 4.83 versus 4.9. Yeah, I mean, maybe similar athleticism. They both go down pretty easy, pretty hard. I think Jesse probably a little better athlete, though, I would say.
What was Jesse's short shuttle time?
4.5.
And Gentry's 4.53. What was the three-cone time on Jesse?
Don't think he tested. Did Gentry do the 60-yard shuttle by chance?
I don't remember.
Jesse did for some reason.
Why do they even have that long?
Yeah, I don't even know why
the long shuttle. Nobody, about
like
eight people run it maybe.
Yeah.
Let's see. Gentry did run it. 12.43.
Jesse was 12.15.
Okay, so so Jesse a little bit better, seemingly a little bit better athlete.
Yeah, which isn't good news for Zach Gentry because this wasn't Usain Bolt running down the scene for Pittsburgh and Jesse James.
Right, exactly. So I mean, we both agree. Ceiling appears to be Jesse James that just exited.
Yeah, and again, that's ceiling, and you're not going to get that for probably a couple of years as Gentry learns about the position. Still learning. But Jesse was a young guy. Jesse was 21 coming out. I mean, he was a young dude, underclassman. So there's some valid comparisons there.
All right. Anything else to add on Gentry?
Nope. I think we'll keep watching some more of him. I know I will for sure. But probably like I said, I think I would call Zach Gentry my least favorite draft pick of the 9.
All right. Who else have we watched a little bit more? Do we want to talk about?
I think I watched some more of Bugs. You watched some more of Benny Snell last night. So talking about Bugs quickly. Some impressive things. I think he's got a variety of ways to win as a pass rusher. I think, again, he's going to provide more pass rush juice at the depth of the defensive line than any of the other guys that are there right now. Tyson Alulu, Daniel McCullers, LT Walton from last year. I know, it's not on the roster now, but a guy that has some good hand use, some good swipes, ability to rip through. Guy that's stunted and twisted, and I think, a good effort player overall who really works hard getting after the quarterback. Some footwork issues to clean up. Probably an average athlete, maybe average, just slightly below average guy, but there's something there, and I'm just worried about that lack of length, though, because he played on the perimeter. He's getting locked up by some of these long tackles, but his hand use is there, and the effort is evident.
He's definitely going to have to, his hand effort and his strength is the only thing that's going to probably help him overcome the lack of length, especially the further out he lines up past the 3-tech.
Yeah, and his footwork.
He's got his footwork. But there, and look, I thought you put a good clip of him up on the Twitter machine last night. You can see that false step. I mean,
yeah. In that clip though, I was more worried about him crossing his feet than that false step. I'll take a false step over him trying to play like a basketball player.
Right, but that false step's not going to help in if you get too separated like that, then your next step might be a cross step,
Yeah.
But he's definitely got footwork issues. Oh, I mean, they all do coming out, but
sure.
I mean, he's I like his prospect. I like him a lot better than Joshua Frazier coming out last year.
Well, that's not hard to do.
And, I mean, he definitely had the production there. Now, is this a guy that you're going to consistently line up on the 4-eye or a 5? No. But is he a guy that you can bring in situationally the way the Steelers sometimes will have those and some passing downs, and the Steelers will have a couple of those guys, about 3 techs or whatnot, getting after the passer, potentially.
They talked about him playing on the outside, and just not what I would rather do. Now, again, it's not going to matter as much because they're playing so much interior, but I think his home's going to be playing probably that 3-tech.
Right, and I think I'm not saying he's going to play a lot on the outside, but I mean, if you need a snap or two on the outside, where he's really going to struggle against those long arm tackles the most.
Yeah. I think he will play on the outside some. I mean, I just think that's where he's going to start to struggle even more because he's going to get locked up by these tackles that are going to get their long arms into him and take control of the block, and that's the worry there.
And the thing is, you got to protect your surface area, and you got to have good balance, protect your surface area. Don't let those hands inside of you, and you've got to use your leverage and your hand work to outmaneuver those tackles in that situation. That's easier said than done on a podcast.
Yeah, and it's not like his get-off is fantastic where he's able to really get a quick first step and get into the block right away and take control. I think it's an average first step. I think some people have said it's really poor. I don't necessarily see that, but I don't think there's a special burst or get-off that really wows you. So he's not going to be the one making that first contact a lot. And again, when you combine that with 31 and 3/4-inch arms, I mean, when you're facing a 6'5" tackle with 34-inch fines, I mean, that's going to be a disadvantage for Bugs.
What do you think about his stunning ability?
I just like that he's done it. I'm sure there's going to be some small things to clean up on, but I think when you go, when you're playing in a Bama, pro defense led by Nick Saban, when you're used to those concepts, when you're used to discipline, when you're used to, understanding how stunts work, and if you're the first one to go, if you got to wait for the crasher and you're the looper around, or vice versa, just doing the timing of it and the positioning. I thought that's a valuable thing to have coming out, and that's going to help him.
All right, what do you like his chances of making the 53?
Pretty strong, because he'd be at worst case right now with the 6th defensive lineman, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at worst.
Yeah.
And he could get a hat. So, I mean, his competition's going to be Casey Sales and, the guys, Winston Craig, the AAF guy that they brought in. The competition isn't fierce though, so I think he's got a good shot to make, at least get on the roster. Maybe not get a hat, though I'd like that, but at least make the 53.
Yeah, I like his chances early on as well.
All right, Benny Snell, you did a deep dive into our guy Benny Snell last night, and I think you came away. I don't know. When you watch Benny Snell and you see those clips, I saw the ones you were tweeting. I just felt like I want to run through a wall for this guy. This guy's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I haven't taken an ultra deep dive. I just continuing kind of my surface stuff on him. I haven't gone and watched outside of the clips that are already floating around out there. I haven't taken a deeper dive into his things like his pass blocking and all like that, or really his overall running in general. But I did learn more about him than what I knew before he was drafted now by watching a little bit more of his tape. And this is a kid that you want to, we heard Eddie Faulkner talk during the post-selection press conference that this is a guy that the way he runs kind of you think of Steelers running backs, and that is indeed a case. He runs with purpose and dares you to bring him down. He is a very tough player to bring down on first contact. And boy, you'll see a lot of plays where him maybe only getting 6 or 7 yards, but he earned every damn last one of those yards. Now, you will see several long runs on his tape, but as I think I cautioned before, he's not a big play home run guy, but neither was Le'Veon Bell. And I pulled these stats up last night. I'm not sure if you saw them, Alex, comparing Le'Veon Bell to Benny Snell coming out of college there. Snell had, I think, 737 total rushing attempts. Bell had 671 total rushing attempts. So they're, what's the difference there? 36, like 70-something, 674, something like that. 76 attempts off of each other right there. Obviously, Benny Snell had more rushing yards than Le'Veon Bell coming out of college. He also had a higher yards per rush, which yards per rush these days is such an archaic stat. But, we'll point out that it was 5.26 at Kentucky, whereas Bell was 4.99. Snell had 48 touchdowns on the ground. Bell had 33. Here's where you get to see a little bit of similarities of the two in college as far as big plays go, or runs of 20 yards or more. Le'Veon Bell only had 26, and when you look at what Le'Veon Bell's done in the NFL and you go back and you see the stat, it's not overly surprising, because Le'Veon Bell would just, one of the thumps on Le'Veon Bell was that he just was not a big play producer in the running game. And in college, only 26 of his runs resulted in 20 yards or more. That's 3.9% of all carries. Well, Benny Snell, he had 30 total for 4.1%. So only, very minuscule difference right there. Now, where the big difference, I think, is, and it's encouraging, is Benny Snell had 104 carries that resulted in gains of 10 yards or more, and that's 14.1% of all carries. Bell, on the other hand, 11.9% of his carries, 80 runs in total were 10 yards or more. So once again, Bell not a big, 10-yard, 20-yard gain producer in college, and technically Benny Snell wasn't either, but at least Benny Snell had, a little bit higher, 3% more of his runs were 10 yards or more. So I think that's an encouraging aspect right there, especially, look, Benny Snell come out of the SEC, and what's the SEC known for?
It's defense. It's front seven.
And speed, right?
Yeah, and speed, yeah. No, I mean, they're similar guys. I mean, the question with Snell, even though the stats are a little better than Bell, is going to be, can you create the big plays? But that's not the type of style that the Steelers tend to go for, the guys that they draft. They're drafting these grinders. I mean, Benny Snell is mortar and pestle. He's not a firecracker. That's the type of guy that you're getting. But if you need, what's the joke that you've made before? If you need 3 yards, he's going to get you 3. If you need 5 yards, he's going to get you 3. That's kind of, it's sort of Benny Snell. But, I mean, this guy has done a good job yards after contact and churning out those tough yards. Just don't expect them to rip off 50-yard gains in the NFL.
Right. If you're looking at this, if you're looking at Snell and saying, "Man, where's the big plays at?" That's not him, and it wasn't Bell either. And you could be a great running back in this league and not be a big play machine. The thing that I want to look for the most, Alex, going through his tape, moving forward, and Lord knows we got the next 3 months to do so, is how he is on broken plays. Is he able to get 3 yards when he should have had -3?
Mm-hmm. I've seen those on tape. I mean,
okay, I haven't,
okay.
but I haven't looked for him either.
Right. There's a good touchdown run. I forget against who it was, but there's one where it was like a 5-yard score, and the dude was in the backfield right away, and Snell spun off it and found the end zone. So they're there. But it's gonna be that. It's gonna be his hands in pass protection. And I thought Eddie Faulkner made a really good point that I hadn't even considered before, but I think it's an excellent one. That Snell played a lot of Wildcat at Kentucky, and while he didn't catch many passes, him playing that quarterback spot in Wildcat really shows his hands, the trust that they had for him to secure the football, and then of course still make his read. So I think his hands are good, even though he hasn't caught a lot of passes at Kentucky.
How many did Le'Veon Bell catch coming out? I mean, was Le'Veon Bell that? I don't remember him having, an eye-popping amount of stats coming out of. Hold on a minute, I'll tell you for sure here.
He had 78 in 3 years. I mean, that's 32.
Let's see, he had 32 receptions. And he wasn't a big play machine as far as that. In 2012, Bell's final season, he had 32 receptions for 167 yards, 5.22 average. I mean, that's and he did have 35 in 2011 for a 7.63 average, and in 2010 he had 11. So how many does Snell have coming out? 30-something?
29 in his career, 17 last season. So
Bell did have quite a bit more, but once again, I don't think Bell was. Hold on here, and I'll let you know situationally as far as big plays in receiving go for Bell coming out. Let's see. 2012 for Bell, 32 receptions, only one of 15 yards or more.
Okay. Yeah.
Of 32 catches. And in 2011, he had 3 that were 15 yards or more. And in 2010, he had 1. So a very small, tiny amount of Bell's receptions went for 15 yards or more.
Well, Snell might not have any because he's got a career 7.4 average. So but yeah, Bell caught the ball more. But I bet your Snell's hands are good. And Faulkner said they were at his pro day and really wanted to look at his hands. And Faulkner said the dude caught everything and kind of answered that question and that. I don't want to say concern, but an unknown of how good he was as a receiver. So I don't think he's going to be this massive liability as a receiver. I mean, he's not going to be his MO, but I think you want to throw a screen to him or a check down, I think you're going to be okay.
He had 4 catches during his college career that went more than 15 yards, that resulted in gains of 15 yards.
Snell?
Yeah.
Okay, well, good. The numbers don't seem to suggest that, but I'm glad to hear that then.
And I'll tell you the longest play that one of the longer ones I think he had. Let's see here. I think Missouri evidently had a long one in the game against Missouri for probably 20-something yards. So go back and see if you can find that one.
What's the longest rush of Snell's career? Do we know the number for that? It's the longest game that he's ever had. Just curious. I wonder if it's over or under 50. I mean, you did get to be over for the production that he had.
Last year, his longest run was 52.
Okay. I said a good over-under then.
71 in 2017.
Do you know who that was against?
I can get you that information.
I know. I'm asking that rhetorically. I'm just curious if it was against SEC team or like a week one.
I think it was Louisville. Don't quote me on this. I think it was I think it was the Louisville
game. We're putting Dave's memory to the test here. See if he's right.
I think.
Come on, Dave.
I'll have to look that part up. I can only tell you his longest.
Well, he had 211 yards against Louisville, so that might be a good place to start. 211. Let me try to look at a box score here. See if Dave gets it right. He didn't score. If it was a 71-yard run, it wasn't a touchdown. I don't see it in the box score.
Okay.
So it could be though. But so 71. I'm curious. That might be a good contextualization. What are some of the big plays Benny Snell's had in his career?
Maybe I should tackle that today. Gains of 15 yards or more, huh?
Yeah, I'd be interested in that. I was just curious. And I wonder what Bell's longest career college run was, too. He probably had at least one that went for a long way. But, yeah, I mean, they are similar guys. And, again, you're drafting James Conner a similar way. Conner showed some more explosiveness and probably did have more explosive plays in his college career. But the Steelers have a type at running back, and they don't stray from it for better or worse.
Le'Veon Bell, long run in 2012 was 40 yards.
What about 11?
35.
Bell's that same dude.
He did have a 75-yard run in 2010 was his longest. Bell. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean some similarities definitely between Bell and Snell.
Yeah, I think that might be something I tackle today is a look at his. I mean, what do we hope to learn by contextual? I guess that's a good question. What do we hope to learn by contextualizing the runs of, let's say, 10 yards or more?
Well, I might expand it out a little bit further to 15 or 20. I'd just be curious just to see them, and I'm curious, is he getting chased down from behind on those long runs? Why weren't those runs even longer? I guess would be a good question in my mind. Or was it just that, the dude had an angle, he ran out of bounds, or what was the reason?
Well, why wouldn't we want to look? I mean, because, look, a 10-yard run, what do you consider? Don't they kind of consider long runs in the NFL to be 10 yards or longer?
Yeah, I think that they do, but I just want to look at it from when you can really see long speed on display. But hey, if you're writing about it and I'm not, you do whatever you want.
Well, the thing is, I don't think he had like 70 something runs at 10 yards or more during his career, right?
Okay, yeah, I wanted to kind of, as long as there's not too many examples where it's information overload, but I'd just be curious on the longest runs to kind of see how they happen. Was it just a complete whiff? Was he breaking tackles? And I'm curious how he made some of those really big runs, 20 plus. Was it him breaking tackles? Bills? Was there a more burst than we thought, or was it just a defensive meltdown where he had a giant lane to run through and took advantage of it? I don't know.
You know, the thing about James Conner, and I keep bringing this up, and I broke this down either right before or right after James Conner was drafted. He had a lot of he was an explosive play guy, and a lot of them right up the gut too. You know, he is a guy that would run you over in the second level, and he would hit that hole good. And he had a surprisingly high amount of explosive runs of 20 yards or more coming out of Pitt.
Yeah, more burst. He had more burst than Snell or Bell coming out.
So, I mean, you're still fairly. I mean, is there anything that have you gone? I haven't looked at much of his pass protection, but I do know he was considered a good pass protector at Kentucky.
I haven't gone through that yet. I really just looked at him as a runner, but certainly gonna have to be a well-rounded guy. Again, I like the pick. It's an easy dude to root for. It was an easy guy to dot connect. I understand wanting to maybe have a different type of back, and that's gonna be a concern there. But I think they got a good player. I don't know if they got a great player, but I think they got a good one.
Do you bring in a veteran right now for camp, or is there even a veteran willing to sign a minimum contract right now? Because, I mean, obviously Eddie was asked about the age of the running back room, and he said, "Man, thanks for that stat. I didn't even know, but I'm okay with it being young." Because obviously James Conner's got some experience and all. But would you bring in anybody right now?
No, probably not. I'm happy with the group. You got Edmonds there as number 4. Yeah, it's a young group, but Connor's in his 3rd year. I mean, I think he's a veteran of that group. I think he's I think with Bell out, I mean, I think everyone has the now defined player to look at. There is no questions about, where's Bell at? Is he going to return? All that stuff. So let Connor be the leader. I'm okay with that.
Are you bringing in another tight end?
Yeah, it'd be nice. They really don't have the tight end depth is not good. I think go back to what I said yesterday. I think you sit there in camp. How did Vance McDonald become a Pittsburgh Steeler? Because Jesse James had a really poor camp, and the tight ends really struggled, and this team felt like they had to make a move. And so you go midway through August, and Vance is doing fine, but you got Grimble who's up and down, and Gentry who looks like a 5th-round rookie, like quarterback a couple of years ago. You might make a call. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see them. I don't know about before camp, but maybe during camp they make a trade.
All right, we talked about Snell some now. Who else? Who do we want to end on, or if any, do we want to save some of these guys for later on in the week?
Yeah, I haven't gotten to Sutton Smith really too much yet, any deeper. So
he's let me tell you, I've started a little bit of a deeper dive with him. I don't want to burst any bubbles here, but he's going to struggle. He's going to struggle rushing back to the inside the NFL level.
Yeah.
Obviously with his size and all like that. The deeper I'm getting into his stuff, the more. I mean, he's a high effort player. Don't get me wrong. To me though, he's not a guy that's going to be able to function as an off the ball linebacker.
As an off the ball linebacker,
huh?
Not outside. You said off the ball, not outside.
No, as an off the ball. They talked about moving him inside. What I'm saying,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, do you think he can function on the edge?
I'm losing faith by the game.
Yeah. So you're kind of we'll save it, but it sounds like you're getting a real special teams only kind of vibe from him.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not going to hard give a review on him right now.
Yeah.
In fact, we talked right before we got on. I said, "Oh man, I found some more Northern Illinois tape." But let me take a deeper dive into him. He's got quickness. Don't get me wrong. He's got that, but even despite his combine numbers, he still doesn't seem uber bendy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And but I mean, I want to definitely get deeper into him. But just watching him and try to work back inside on some counters or whatnot, sure seemed to get stymied quite easily. And that's probably not surprising considering his size and his weight.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll save that for a later show. Do we have any reader emails, Dave, to close out the show?
Let's see. Joe Clemens writes in, "Hey guys, one quick item. Can we please start a movement to call Justin Lane Night Train Lane?" Yeah, let's hold off on that, Joe. Justin Lane's got a lot. He's another guy. We got so many of these guys who got to get deeper dives into. I really look forward to spending most of my summer looking at Justin Smith or Justin Lane more in depth here. Joe Clemens,
You know why they called him Night Train? You know why the story is there?
Why?
Because he hated flying, and he'd always take the train from game to game, and he always took the night train to go from game to game.
There you go. Do you know what we used to call night train growing up?
I'm scared to hear this answer, but hit me with it.
No, I'll save that for another.
Right.
A lot of people know a lot of old people know what the night train is.
Yeah.
I'm on the night train. But anyway, Joe from Pittsburgh here, pronounced Joe, like the cup of coffee. I initially thought Sutton Smith was an awesome college player, but was too small to play outside linebacker in the NFL. I know either Colbert or Tomlin said he could work with outside and inside linebackers. Was surprised they were still considering him outside linebacker due to his size. But I did some digging around, and Elvis Dumervil is about an inch shorter and 20 pounds heavier and has had success in the NFL. I'm not saying Sutton Smith will have the same success as Elvis Dumervil, but there is a path for them to give it a try. Do you think the kind of success he had in college, he could have similar success to similar stature players at outside linebacker, maybe spending time in an NFL weight room? Joe, I don't want to, look, we're just scratching the surface with this guy, so I don't want to give any hard and fast answers on him. But I think, Elvis Dumervil, a lot more athletic guy?
I'm not sure about that, but 20 pounds heavier is a big difference. Adding weight's a lot harder than it just sounds to do, to maintain speed and all that. So, yeah, it's a big difference. I mean, James Harrison's the same height as Sutton Smith, but they are two totally different dudes.
And Sutton Smith's arm length is really a detriment for him.
What's his length?
30 3/4.
Ugh. Steelers drafted they drafted those T-Rexes, man, Bugs and Sutton. Gilbert doesn't. Well, Gilbert I think has some decent length, but
yeah, those and 9-inch hands too. That's not a lot to grab the lobster with. Although Josh Allen, who has amazing nice arm length at 33.5, only supposedly had 8 5/8 inch hands. Now Josh Allen really used his hands well at Kentucky. Had some nice counters and everything. And Ben Banagoo, has smaller hands, but he had much longer arms at 33 5/8. And it might not seem like those extra couple. Look, size matters when you're an edge rusher, I think. Although James Harrison probably not the longest arm dude, right?
Yeah, again, I mean, not the length is the say-all end-all. It's about how you use your hands and the power and everything. But, just saying that from a size standpoint, the makeup of Sutton Smith. I mean, heights and weights are one thing, but you just have to look at the body composition of these guys. And Smith is a small dude.
So
getting around it.
So in short, Joe, give us a little time to go through a little bit, a lot more tape on these guys, because, all we mostly have seen are the normal cut-ups flying around, the highlights and all like that. And, when you start looking at these guys more on a down-to-down basis, you start learning more about them there. So we appreciate the email. Dakota Smith writes in, Dakota emailing from Kuwait in the military.
Huh?
God bless you, Dakota. Thanks for your
Thank
service.
you, Dakota.
Love getting information about the Steelers from you guys. You guys did a hell of a job covering the draft. Thank you. The guys all did a hell of a job, I thought, during the draft. What do you think the weakness is about the Steelers' defense position-wise? Does the Steelers not drafting a safety show their confidence in Sean Davis and Edmonds? Sean Davis is in a contract year. Do you see the Steelers keeping him longer? Thank you for your time and long-time listener. Appreciate the work. Thanks for emailing, Dakota. That means a lot. I think safety, Alex and I talked at the top of the show. What's going to happen in this dime?
Yeah, well, thank you, Dakota, for your service, and thank you for the question. The dime question is spot is a question mark, and also just dime depth in general. What if there's injuries to Davis or Edmonds? Can you expect those guys to go through the entire season? And then, as the question mentioned, Davis in the last year of his contract. I mean, yeah, there are some big time questions at safety right now. I'll say this: Marcus Allen, they better be confident. I mean, as confident as they appear to be in Marcus Allen, because he's going to be a big key here.
All right, it looks like Jim Kusick, Jim K in Atlanta, Georgia, Dave and Alex, fan-freaking-tastic draft coverage. Less of a question and more of an observation. Realistically, there are about 2 starters in this draft class, maybe 3 if all the cornerbacks retire, which had me wondering what the expectations should be. Looking back at the Steelers drafts from 2011 to 2017, seems that it's only a touch above average. I guess what he's saying is about 2 starters out of each draft class, going all the way back to say 2011 there. He said it makes him feel a little bit better about the Steelers giving up a second, but I was surprised how few starters really come out of the draft class here. Well, obviously you hope Devin Bush is going to be a long-time starter for you, so that's one. Boy, they have if you believe the report by Jerry Dulac, they had a first-round grade on Deontay Johnson. I think that's a little bit of a stretch there, but let's say if he had a second-round grade and they got him in the 3rd round, well, then you obviously are expecting him to become a starter for you as well, too. And then from there on out, you're throwing darts at the board, right, Alex? I mean, if you can get 3 starters out of this class, and then maybe a part-time player and a number 2 tight end and say Gentry and a backup, good special teams player with one of the other guys, maybe a backup, let's say Ruggs. I mean, what's the expectations when it comes to this draft class?
Yeah, I mean, that's one concern I have for day 3. I'm going to probably save that for an article about some of the upside with these guys. But yeah, I mean, the obviously it's all predicated on Devin Bush. If he's successful, then this draft class was good. If he wasn't, then you're probably going to remember this one poorly for a long time. But Justin Lane can be another big linchpin. Do they have a finally accurate evaluation on a cornerback, and can they develop him properly? That's the big thing for him. So yeah, Devin Bush, Justin Lane can be some critical components to the success or failure of this draft class.
All right, Hunter Higgins writes in. David Alex, what's up, guys? My name is Hunter Higgins. I'm from North Central West Virginia, and I'm born and raised Steeler fan. Love the draft. You guys killed it with your coverage. Always top of the line. What's your favorite pick? I personally love the Sutton Smith pick. I think this guy will be a maniac on special teams. If he's going to do anything, it's going to be on special teams. That's right, Hunter. I mean, this guy loves to go down and hit, and that's obviously how he's going to have to make this roster, at least initially, and somehow, some way, find a role for himself on this defense. Also, he just seems like he listens to some metal, Dave. Yeah, Hunter, I mentioned the other day, these guys that the elevator don't go all the way up to the top floor. I kind of have a special place for them in my heart. He says, I remember many moons ago you tweeted you were jamming some Merciful Fate during Halloween, and I thought that was so badass. Boy, you ought to see I love, I grew up all heavy metal, Hunter. So yeah, I'm big into metal even to this day. What Steeler player do you think listens to heavy metal? What metal have you been listening to recently? Me and my old man are seeing Iron Maiden in the Berg in August, and I can't wait. Yeah, I mean, this would leave Alex totally out of the conversation here, but I listen to it all, really, Hunter. And if you want to talk about somebody, Hunter, you should follow on Twitter. It's Matthew Marksy, at Marksy, Marczi. Marksy's into a lot of the darker, deeper metal out there. It's got a huge collection. So if you want to definitely talk some metal on the Twitter machine, get with Matthew Marksy. And as far as guys that probably listen to some metal, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if who's the new kid? I'm already losing track of the name. Sutton Smith would be a guy that does that.
Yeah, this question wasn't for me, which is totally fine. I think the first question was my favorite pick. I know it's an easy answer to give, and also because I don't have a great other option, but Devin Bush. That was just the dude. If you didn't get him, you're going to have some big question marks about the inside linebacker spot with a drop-off in talent. I mean, it's got to be Devin Bush.
Yeah, I think it has to. I mean, look, you identify a player that you like, and you go up and get them. And, you talk about a team that Kevin Colbert admitted – prior to the draft, they did a horrible job last year of filling Ryan Shazier's shoes, and that's what this whole draft is kind of centered around this year. So yeah, I think that has to be, and for obvious reasons, first round draft pick and all like that. But I mean, I think that's the one that you got to be the most excited about right now. I mean, can Deontay Johnson come in and start picking up where Antonio Brown left off? I mean, you obviously are not going to pick right up where Antonio Brown left off, but can he become that same kind of producing player? Justin Lane, who knows with cornerbacks in this team and all like that. So, yeah, I think it has to be Bush there. Matt McCarthy writes in, lifetime Steelers fans, why the – I guess this is a mad emoji in here. Pass on Winovich at 66, especially for Deontay Johnson, who I really didn't care for, by the way. Now Chase Winovich is a damn New England Patriot. I like the Justin Lane pick at 83 at least. I thought that presented good value in the late third. I agree the Lane pretty good value where they got him there. All I have to say, Matt, is, were you just Winovich all in, Winovich or nothing? Did you even know who Deontay Johnson was, before the pick came in? Have you learned a lot about Deontay Johnson? It's easy to get caught up with falling in love with one player ahead of the draft, and I think most fans are probably guilty of falling into the Winovich cult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, receiver was such a position you wanted to address, and again, to hear the Steelers tell it, or Daryl Drake tell it, that had they not taken Johnson at 66, he'd be a Tampa Bay Buck right now. Would have taken him four selections later. So yeah, I mean, Winovich would have been a good fit, but I understand the selection of Johnson, and I don't try to get too mad about the players they didn't take. I just try to evaluate the guys that they did take.
And look, I mean, Winovich, like it or not, you can definitely see him fitting with kind of a Rob Ninkovich role with the Patriots or whatnot, right? But he is a little bit older still, and it would have been, to spend an early round draft pick on that, on a guy that probably wasn't going to see the field too terribly much his rookie season. Talk about Winovich. I understand people liking the kid because it's hard not to notice him on tape.
Mm-hmm. Deontay Johnson might have a higher ceiling than Chase Winovich too. I mean, if that helps you, makes you feel any better.
What's that?
I think Deontay Johnson might have a higher ceiling than Chase Winovich, if that makes you feel any better.
Yeah, possibly. All right, one last one from Mike Roquette. It was mentioned by several people that people had Deontay Johnson much further down on their draft board. One group who didn't was Pro Football Focus. They had him at 77 on their big board, and then he attaches a video here, rave about him while giving him a second-round grade. Why do you believe he was projected much lower by most? His 40 time alone, production concerns. Look, I think he's a MAC kid, and the further you get off the grid from big schools, the less people watch tape. As much tape as Alex and I love to try to watch, we can't get to everybody properly, right, Alex?
100%.
Now Pro Football Focus, I'm sure, has guys dedicated to certain groups, but not all their guys are going to grade and scout guys the same way either. So when you look across the various landscapes of the pre-draft draft boards or what have you, it's all subjective, because how much did people spend on Deontay Johnson being a smaller school kid? So I think people not knowing a lot about Deontay Johnson, along with probably scouting him mostly from a combine aspect, would have probably had him further down the draft board as most.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how other scouting services do it. I think the combination of Johnson's smaller size, his competition, playing in the MAC, his average to below 40 time probably all pushes him down, and the fact that he didn't have a great 2018. He had some down numbers from the year prior, but PFF wasn't the only one that graded him highly. Lance Zierlein from NFL.com had him as a third-round grade. So, reports are going to be mixed. And again, to hear it from the league is that this guy was viewed as a third, no worse than fourth-round pick that would have not gotten past Tampa Bay at 70. So, again, now that the draft is over, forget about where you took him. Let's evaluate the player and see if he's going to be worth it or not.
Mark Chapman writes in, Johnson runs a 4.5340. Devin Bush is a 4.4. LOL. All the talent on the board, Colbert gets back to his groove. I'm not sure. Mark, you can't just judge these guys off of their 40 time, my brother. I mean, there's a lot more to these guys than just that. From another Mark Alt writes in, Mark, pronounced Mark. I coached a kid that is playing for Fresno State right now. When the Steelers are looking for a new lineman, he will be coming out. His name is Cyrus Tuletti, and I think it would be very interested in what you might have to say about him. I know there's a lot going on right now. Yeah, Mark, hit us back up closer, not now, I guess, for some of these kids that are still in college. I can't tell you a thing about that kid. I got to be honest with you. I doubt Alex can tell you much about him as
Nothing
well.
At all.
And we'll end with this one last one. John Weissier. Dear Dave and Alice, thank you both for terrific coverage of the Steelers. I've become an avid and addicted listener to your podcast, which are truly outstanding, informative, entertaining, and a lot of fun. Thanks for that, John. I really appreciate the great work the two of you and all members of your team deliver. Keep up the great work. It looks like it's just a thank you there, Alex. And, John, we appreciate you writing in and letting us know. Like I said, Alex and the rest of the team, outstanding job during the draft, during the offseason coverage and all. And now we look forward to kind of transitioning into learning as much more as we can about some of these draft picks here. And you can find all that information in the coming weeks and months, of course, on SteelersDepot.com. Alex, any other final closing words?
Cyrus Tuletti was started all 12 games, right tackle for Fresno State. So, we'll remember him, but he's got a little ways before he might even be draft eligible, my man.
All right, there. And you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button, upper right navigational bar. If you want an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the ad-free button. For $25, you can have a calendar year's access to SteelersDepot.com without all the ads on it and all. And if it sounds like we're kind of worn out right now, it's probably with these podcasts. It's because we probably are. We're going to take we'll be back on Wednesday. We're going to take Tuesday off on the podcast. We'll be back on Wednesday. We'll be back on Friday. And then the following week, we're going to get back to the Tuesday and Friday schedule with the podcast. And in the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.